So here we are back on PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds on the PlayStation 4, flying over, of course, Sandhook. Definitely not my favourite PUBG map, but hey, it's better than Karakin. And so you might be saying, Rob, what are you doing here? Well, I was trying to play Warzone last night as I record this video. And there was some kind of update going on, so I was like, what do I fancy playing for a bit? And I thought, well, sod it. Let's go back into PUBG. I know I did that video not that long ago that said the day that PUBG died, when they released that was PUBG Fantasy April Fool's joke that wasn't really an April Fool's joke. And I was really upset, really upset about that. We have got Vikendi coming back in, I think it's in about a week's time on console. It's already out on PC. And with the return of Vikendi, I'm definitely going to be playing some PUBG. So I thought, let's jump into PUBG. And lo and behold, I managed to get a chicken dinner on my first game back. My only game back, because I played this, then I went back and played some Warzone. So I thought it would be good to not only have a chicken dinner gameplay video, so I'll let it all run. It's not particularly exciting. All the deaths, all the kills come at the end. 3 kills, I think that's it. And lots of basically sitting in a building waiting for the circle to come in. But to really talk about how it feels to play PUBG again after playing Warzone for so long. Since Warzone came out sort of 3-4 weeks, I've just been playing it solidly every day. For at least an hour every day, in the same way that we all used to play solidly PUBG, didn't we? Right back from when it came out on the Xbox, through the coming out of the early access program, and then through the PlayStation 4 release, and up until probably about 6-7 months ago, wasn't it, when PUBG, for me, I guess with the release of like COD Modern Warfare 2019, because that was so amazing, kind of started to fall into the background. And the PUBG developers have kind of made so many bad decisions about this game that it really put me off playing it. But that doesn't change the fact that PUBG at its heart is still a really good game, and it's my problem. I still think this is one of the greatest, if not the greatest game ever made at its height, when it was at its best. It really was absolutely amazing. Not quite so much now, but anyway, how did it feel to come back and play PUBG? And should you think about coming back and playing PUBG if you were a bit of a fan? And of course, the answer is yes. Of course, you should come back and play this every now and again, because PUBG compared to Warzone, it's like a military simulator. Honestly, it really is. You've got the much simpler graphics, the much more realistic graphics. I know they don't look as good, but they're less flashy, less cartoony. It's a much quieter game as well. There's no music playing. There's no jin as you're picking stuff up. There's a lot less to do in the middle game, especially like me, if you like playing quietly, because like in this particular case on Sandhook, I've flown as far away from the flight path basically as I can get, so I can loot up in peace, and then I move in with a circle, and then nothing really happens until the last 3 minutes a game. Whereas in Warzone, because the map's smaller anyway, and you've got like 150 players, you tend to bump into people more often. But you've also got other things to do. You've got you go around collecting money so that you can buy things, but you can also do contracts. Taking out other players, or doing recon contracts, or doing the one where you have to go and find the different loot boxes, scavenger contracts. They're pretty cool. Obviously, there's none of that in PUBG, and I wouldn't want them to put things like that into PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. I think they should keep it as much as they can like the military sim PUBG. I know it's not really military sim, if you compare it to like Armour and things like that, but there's no things like heartbeat sensors. There's no UAVs. It's just you and your gun and your knowledge of the map and the strategies and tactics you should be doing against the 100 other people that dropped on the map. Now, there have been a few changes as well, which, again, they're very questionable. So the first one you may well have noticed when we were flying in at the beginning is that the blue circle, the force field, it now kind of looks like a cylinder sticking up over the map, and I'm sure it never used to look like that. It was much more vague to start off with, so that's a bit odd they've done that. And also, when the blue comes in, you may well hear it in a few minutes. There's like this electric hum as it comes past you, which wasn't there. But you've still got the situation where it doesn't actually really do that much damage to you in the early game anyway. They've also made this really weird change to looting, and you'll see it now. You can see the loot flashes, it throbs in a lighter colour as you're wandering around the looting areas, which is really weird. And I was talking to one of the guys at work about this today, because the only time where we had really bad problems with visibility of loot was when the game first came out on Xbox, was when you used to be able to pick up clothes as well. So not only would you have guns and attachments and grenades and med kits and all that sort of stuff scattered around, you'd have clothes. So you'd have like a jacket, and underneath the jacket there would be a gun, so it'd be difficult to see stuff. So that's why you'd see people like myself. A lot of the time I go into my inventory to loot, because it means you could see stuff. And then occasionally with things like level 3 vests and level 2 vests, if they were on a dark floor, often you couldn't really see them. But I've never really thought we needed to make them flash like this, and in fact I think it's pretty distracting, and it really takes away from the immersion of PUBG as that kind of semi-realistic shooter, you know, with no aim assist and with the realistic guns and the realistic gameplay. So I think that's a real shame, and I think this is all part of the lack of influence of Brendan Green, you know, the original PlayerUnknown, the guy who came up with the concept of PUBG, and, you know, created the first iterations of Erangel. And this is now, he's long gone now from development of PUBG. They've given, you know, he's got all this money to, he still works for the PUBG developer, but he's in Amsterdam now rather than in Korea. You know, he's not directly involved with PUBG anymore. So his vision is slowly becoming more and more diluted as we're having these other influences come in. And I think probably a lot of influences from things like PUBG Mobile, which has probably been wildly successful on mobile phones, and on PUBG Mobile, you know, you probably do need a little bit of help to see things, to see loot, but you definitely don't need that help. I don't think on PC or on console. And in fact, all they could have done is just maybe when something's on the floor, just increase the brightness of it a fraction, you know, or give it a slightly outer glow. But you know, it could be really subtle. No way does it need to be that kind of orange flashing. So let's take that to one side. After that, we've got the core gameplay of PUBG, which is, you know, if you're new to PUBG, it's Battle Royale, so it's 100 players. Drop onto, in this case, Sanhok, and then we are all forced in by the blue circle, by the force field. I mean, it's definitely a force field now because it hums, and as far as I'm aware, gas doesn't hum. And then you kind of forced in to fight each other, and the last person alive wins. The last person alive gets that famous chicken dinner. And I've got to say, I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I enjoyed the quietness of the game in comparison to how Warzone is. I enjoyed the time to think. I enjoyed the time to enjoy the adventure of Battle Royale, because I've been thinking about this over the last couple of weeks. The idea of why are Battle Royales so compelling compared to, say, respawn shooting, say like in Call of Duty when you're playing domination or team deathmatch, something like that. What is it about the Battle Royale? And I think a lot of it is to do with a Battle Royale match. It lasts, you know, anything from, say, 15 minutes to half an hour, depending on the game and depending on the map. But they're their own little adventures that have a beginning and have an end. And you're creating your own story throughout this adventure, and that's what makes them compelling, because almost every time you play, because they're all based on pretty large maps and different maps, and you drop in different places and they end in different places, you don't get that much repetition in that adventure, there's always something slightly different that happens, something slightly different that you've got to deal with, and so some different excitement. And of course, then you have if you do get to the end, you have the amazing adrenaline rush, with the PUBG sweats, the PUBG shakes, when you're thinking, Christ, I've got a chance of winning this, and all of a sudden it all gets very serious indeed, and you've got to start concentrating and start really thinking about how to play. And PUBG, still has all that. And so, yeah, I did enjoy myself, and it did make me want to play more PUBG. Now, with Vikendi coming, and Vikendi was probably, I'd say it was probably my favourite PUBG map in its original form. Now, I know they've messed around with it. They've added trains to it. They've done up Dino Park. But hopefully, if they kept the core of why Vikendi was good, which was the way that the cover on the island and the way that the circle moved, because the circle moves slower on Vikendi, that bodes very, very well for playing some more PUBG as an alternative to Warzone, which I think is absolutely amazing. But there is a bit of a problem, and that problem is map selection. With a dwindling player base like PUBG, you remember it's been out since 2017 on PC, and a few months after that on Xbox, and then a year after that I think it was on PlayStation. It's had a good run, but there's nowhere near the same number of players playing it as there used to be. And when you have to have 100 people in a lobby, that then leads to very long wait times between games if you allow people to choose exactly which maps they want to have. And then when you have a long wait time in the lobby, people then just quit and they go and play a different game, which leads to even more longer wait times. And pretty soon, the game can die. You'll see this with older versions of Call of Duty when you fire them up and you try and get a multiplayer game, and you can't anymore because they reach this critical tipping point where there wasn't enough people to have lobbies regularly. And then all of a sudden, most people just quit, and they go and play something else. And so what they've done in PUBG to kind of tackle this, they've put all the maps into one big hopper. And so when you do the quick join, you'll either get like Erangel, Sanhok, Miramar, Karakin, or probably Vikendi with the new ones. Now what they have said is that they will have Vikendi as a featured map. So you'll be able to just play Vikendi, and then the other maps will be put together. However, I think one of the problems with Vikendi is it never had a good launch especially on consoles, because it was too buggy and people used to fall through the map and they didn't have a good experience. So lots of people didn't like it, even though in reality it was a bit like Erangel with snow, I tend to think. So you end up, what PUBG then have to do is to keep people so they have reasonable length queues. They then put all the maps together, and then you have the problem that I have with PUBG, which you think, oh right, yeah, I fancy having a game of PUBG now. Maybe I've got an hour to spend, so I could probably fit in maybe 3 or 4 games of PUBG. And you go in, you go quick join, and then maybe you'll get something like Miramar, the big desert map. It's an okay map, but the map, there's a lot of ground to cover, and the games take an awful long time to play. And maybe you'll get to like 15th or something. Maybe you'll get a kill and then you die. And you go, oh, okay, let's see what we get next. And then you get Sanhok, like the jungle map, which has got these incredibly short lines of sight. And you tend to get third parties an awful lot. So maybe then you get killed. And then you have the critical time then. And that critical time is which map the game decides to give you next. Because if I've just played Miramar and Sanhok, if I then get Miramar or Sanhok again, or worst situation, Karakin, because I really don't like playing Karakin, I will then quit out and go and play something else. If it gives me Erangel at that point, or Vikendi, brilliant. They're the maps I want to play. I will then play it. So I think with the update that's coming in the next few days, where they add back in Vikendi, and I think we're going to Season 7 now, aren't we? How they handle the fact that they've got all these maps, they've got too many maps I think now, and how they handle that in terms of the queues is going to be very, very interesting indeed. I kind of think what they should do is Erangel should always be a featured map, You know, that should be the one, because when it comes down to it, if we had a choice and said, right, you could only keep one map in PUBG, we want to keep the game alive, but in order to do that, we need to make sure we have short queues of people so they don't get too bored. What map could you keep? What map should we play? Without a doubt, it should be Erangel. Erangel is where it all started. Erangel has got a lovely balance. There's loads of different places. There's lots of excitement in Erangel. There's lots of fun things to do with all the water and the bridges, the military base, all that sort of stuff. Let's go with Erangel. And then probably have everything else in the quick join thing. I mean, if it was really up to me, I would probably say, well, okay, put Sanhok and Karakin in a little hopper. So if you want to play fast games, you play that one. And then I would have Erangel and Vikendi in their own hopper. And then I would probably have just have Miramar by itself. Would I have Miramar by itself? I don't know. Okay, I'll put Miramar and Vikendi together. Yeah, so Miramar and Vikendi get together for the bigger maps. Sanhok and Karakin together for fast small maps. And then I would have Erangel as, you know, this is the original map. This is the OG map. This is the one where you're going to have the most purist Battle Royale PUBG experience. And we go with that, and that would work that way. So there we go. That's my kind of thoughts on PUBG at the moment. Is it worth coming back and playing? Absolutely. And I think over the next couple of weeks, sort of April, May 2020, this is going to be the critical time for PUBG, whether they can pull players back from the amazing free-to-play Warzone, or it's going to be like the final nails in the coffin, where people want to play certain maps and they keep being forced to play maps they don't like, so they'll just go away and they'll play other things. Also, the other problem that often happens with these big updates from PUBG, something will go wrong. You know, even with this one, we haven't had a PTS on console, which is amazing. So there's no massive console testing. So probably what will happen is we'll have the update, something won't be working, like it was sound is the big one they had last time, and it will piss people off as well, and they'll just think, sod it, I'm going to go back to Warzone. Hopefully though, it will be a good update. They'll handle the matchmaking and the map selection in a way that pleases lots of people, and pleases me. That'll make me want to come back to it. And PUBG will have some more legs to see it through to the new consoles that we're going to be getting sort of Christmas time 2020, where with the added firepower of those consoles, with the added graphical fidelity, I think that will breathe a lot of new life into the game as well. Anyway, that's enough. I've kind of been waffling along quite a lot now. I'll just leave you with the chicken dinner gameplay. Basically what happens is I stay in this little house, somebody throws a grenade in, I then get out, I run in and I kill some people and I get the chicken dinner. There you go. You know, playing the edge, as you say, is always a good way. Not the most exciting, but occasionally it gives the goods. Anyway, that's enough from me. Put your questions and comments down below. If you've enjoyed the video, hit like. If you want to see more of the same, press subscribe. If you're looking forward to playing more PUBG, let me know. Or if you're not, let me know why. Or let me know if you're really enjoying Warzone. Anyway, I'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.